Hello. Okay, so this is the last video. Promise, pinky promise. For some reason, the last one, the third instalment of the epic, cut off the last 5 minutes. I was there talking for 5 minutes, then I realised that it cut off after 10 instead of the usual 15. So a bit annoying, but anyway. So you've already looked at the Transformers video, so I know it's a bit scrappy, but if we just have a look back, right, and sort of think about this in terms of Mulvey. So the first shot here is the first shot of any human is a 3/4 shot of Shia LaBeouf, sort of looking off to screen left. Then we get what's supposedly his point of view, right? So he looks, camera is dollying in, and then he looks. Okay, so there's no reason for Megan Fox to be framed like this, but she is. Remember, costuming, performance, framing, all of that stuff are all deliberate choices. So there's been a deliberate choice to position and to frame and to depict Megan Fox in this way. And obviously, you can talk about her clothing. It's very kind of short crop top, very short skirt. Attention is drawn to her body, her midriff, her bare arms, and so on. But you can see here, contrast to Shia LaBeouf, who's fully dressed, and he doesn't seem that kind of sweaty, but look at how sweaty Megan Fox is. Very sweaty. So you've got that sort of objectification thing going on, and this is what Mulvey's talking about. And what she basically argues is that the process of subjectification and voyeurism is male to female gaze in mainstream films. Now, obviously, there are some experimental films, some non-mainstream films that kind of play around with this, but this is the kind of norm, as she argues. And there are flaws in her argument, but they're for sort of seminar discussions and stuff. So anyway, she's walking away, and then we get another close-up of him. Okay, this time slightly closer in. And then we've got like the dialogue, like bros before hoes and all this kind of stuff, this kind of sexually frustrated teenage man-child character that he's playing. And then this shot. So then we kind of go to this close-up, okay? And then back to the long shot. Now, for some reason we get a canted frame. Don't quite know why that is. Now, look. So the axis of action is this side of Shia LaBeouf's car, to the right-hand side of it, right? Now, if we follow his eyes, where his eyes looking, her midriff. Rule of thirds, our eyes drawn to here. Then eventually he looks up. Now, weirdly, we don't see his point of view. We just see her framed from this other angle, her right, where he's looking from her left. Okay, now if you look at the framing of her throughout this, she's kind of framed in a slightly more flattering way than he is. Okay, but tellingly, if we move up to this bit, so we have boys and cars, that kind of phallic object that cars are. Look at how ridiculously clean the engine is as well. That's aestheticized as well. Now, if you look at how she is standing with her back arched and curved and her arms sort of on the bonnet of the car, it's a very unnatural pose, but it's one that draws attention to her body, and it's inviting the audience, the male audience, to look at her body. So if we look at this shot, this is the kind of the standard shot throughout this little sequence. So the rule of thirds draws our eye here, 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 and because of the direction of his gaze, here. So we're being invited to look at her, barely clothed body and objectify her just as he is, right? And if you compare her framing to his, all of a sudden he's kind of constrained in. He's not kind of sexualized at all. Obviously, everything's kind of pointing to his head. He's wearing dark clothes. So then we follow his eye towards her body, right? Because the natural curve of her body brings our eye upwards. So it's not it's systematically objectifying her to such a point where we go like that, and then our eyes go up like that. Male or not, whatever our sexual preference is, we are being invited to gaze at Megan Fox's body. We have this shot here. So this is her close-up. So the sun is sort of dappled on her right cheek as she talks. It's very kind of flattering. She's backlit, it's soft focus, it's very shallow focus as well, sort of picking her out in the frame. And then the shot of Shia LaBeouf, by contrast, is much deeper focus. And again, he's looking there. And now her head's not even in shot. So rule of thirds, we're looking here and here. Totally sexualizing her. Now, then we have that. So look at how the camera moves up. The camera is a pervert, right? This is what Mulvey's talking about. Like, look. So he barely looks up, but the camera pervs, and then back down again. There's no need for her to be framed like that. There's no need for her to be shot like that. But we live in such a patriarchal society that becomes the norm for representation of women, and that is what Mulvey's talking about. So that's the last of our spectatorship theorists. Now, all of these kind of basically, the spectatorship theories and theorists fall into a broad category of Lacanian psychoanalytical theory, but they're all kind of suggestive and illustrative of different ways that you can think about film and the way that film works. Okay, so just to kind of return to that, now you've gone through all these, what I want you to do is watch Mulholland Drive on Mubi, and then later in the week I'm going to give you this one, which is my discussion on Mulholland Drive. But please make sure you're familiar with this and all of this stuff as well in the meantime. Okay, thank you.